Vlad!
Yeah, what's good?
I'm on stream, brother. You're the topic of conversation.
Yeah, you think?
Vlad, what's going on?
Man, look, if you look at like my previous tweets, I was talking about how ridiculous the whole news cycle was because they were bringing back this old video from May of Kelsey's bodyguard saying that she really was the shooter, and people like, oh, look, the evidence is in. And I'm like, this is a tweet from May. And he wasn't even the bodyguard that night. He was the bodyguard who claims he overheard something during the court proceedings, whatever. And people are like, oh, that's because Jay-Z, he bought off all the jurors. I said, okay, that's an interesting idea for a tweet. So I created this whole ridiculous tweet with every conspiracy theory laid out one after the other, to the point of even saying that Jay-Z did a verse for the judge's grandson.
Yeah, that was reaching, of course.
You think that was reaching?
Well, hey, listen, I knew this was a satirical tweet from the get-go. I was just speaking about the tweet on stream here. And by the way, Vlad, I'm telling you, you fucked the hip-hop game up with this. Usually I get about 15,000 people watching me. I have 31,000 right now listening to me. Just let you know, okay? And it's all because of you. So we got to get down to some hard facts. Now,
okay.
I'll tell you two issues. And by the way, I've also said me and you, we trade podcast appearances. I get on Vlad TV. You come on my show. Our next podcast has to be solely about this because there's so much to talk about. There's so much to talk about. Now, I had two issues, and you could, we'll get into real depth, like I guess when we sit with each other. But my two issues was this: I think you sent and fired off this tweet because you slightly have an axe to grind still about Tory. Not that you have a problem with him, but people were skeptical of you of when you predicted an outcome, this and third. And I thought you putting up this tweet made an incident so big. Now it's like really kicking his back in for someone who is going through, like, he's incarcerated. It's not like you actually think he did it and he's free. He's incarcerated. He's trying to fight for his freedom or at least some type of relief. And I feel like this is kicking a man when he's down. Okay. Secondly, okay.
Well, hold on. Can I address the first one, or do you want to tell me?
No. Go ahead.
Okay. Tory has been convicted by a jury of 12 people and has been sentenced. He filed an appeal and it was rejected. Now, you could say I'm kicking him while he's down or whatever. He has gone through the legal process and it didn't work out, which is what I've been saying the whole time. I don't have an axe to pick with Tory. I don't know him. We've never spoken. I ran into his dad and we had a respectful conversation. Me and his dad have each other's phone numbers. I said he can come to my show at any point. Tory can come do Vlad TV if he wants to call in or whatever else. I publicly said I feel really bad over what happened with him over the stabbing incident. But it's just like this constant cycle of like, oh, it was really someone else. He never did it. He's the, Roc Nation manipulated everyone. It's just like a ridiculous theory. In the same way that I've been talking about the Nicki Minaj's of the world and so forth, this is just the same thing. I don't have an axe to pick with Tory. I hope Tory does come home sooner than expected. I've always said this.
Well, the reason why I say you possibly have an axe to grind, and it appears so, and it feels like kicking him while he's down, because like there has always been a controversial case where not all of the constituents or the citizens in the United States or viewing public agree. Like, for example, with O.J. Simpson. Would you go as far to say anybody who believes that O.J. did it, they're an idiot or they're just like lunatics? Because that's what this kind of comes across. I feel like there's a particular thing about the Tory thing. Not that I really don't think you have anything against him, but I know you, Vlad. When Vlad gives his opinion and he's right, Vlad loves to be like, I told you so. I think this is a told you so moment. Yet again, just is blown up beyond that because now people are making a lot of other assumptions.
I mean, I guess you want to, you can frame it how you want to frame it. At the end of the day, this got triggered off of Kelsey's bodyguard saying that she was the shooter because you overheard her say it during a conversation. You can check. This whole thing entered the cycle once again. And it was all over like the blogs and everything else like that. And it's like, yo, I don't want Tory to stay in prison. I think he's done his time. He went through a horrific stabbing incident. I hope he comes home early. I have nothing against Tory. He can come do the show. Me and him have had one DM exchange, and that was it. That was it. That's our only interactions. But at the end of the day, this was triggered off of the lunacy coming back into the cycle again. At the end of the day, you know that he filed an appeal and it was struck down, right? But then again, only 2% of appeals ever go through.
Yeah. And again, these are things that the reasonable people who still have doubts, they're not denying. But and so, okay, we get it on that Tory part, but I think the bigger part of even why I think this kind of like it broke through the cycle. It's not that you just had an opinion on Tory. Is that by lumping this idea of, oh, Jay-Z did this, Roc Nation did this, and then basically saying, well, if you believe that, like, come on, like, this is pure sarcasm. There's a lot of really interesting coincidences or real conversation we can have about Roc Nation and Jay-Z. And while you lump it in here, now people are saying, well, all right, we get the Tory part. Like, I do get the Tory part where you're saying you're putting out some facts. Hey, he was convicted. Hey, the appeal didn't go through. And the video you guys are talking about was a old press conference that referred and referenced a bodyguard that wasn't a bodyguard that night. And also that bodyguard claimed that their proof was that they overheard a conversation while during the trial when they were bodyguard for Kelsey. And she allegedly...
It's all hearsay, right?
Yes.
It's all hearsay. Hearsay is not a reason to let someone out of prison. It's just hearsay. And in a court of law, it holds very little, usually no weight at all.
Okay. But the Jay-Z and Meg Thee Stallion stuff and well, really Roc Nation, that's where I think there's certain things that come into play that becomes a little bit, you know, again, for someone like me, and I try to stick to the facts, but pattern recognition, sometimes it feels a little bit more than coincidental. And I think when you mentioned Jay and Roc Nation and how they move, I think even when Nicki's talking about them, I don't think Nicki's out there. I think Nicki's actually speaking facts. I'll be honest with you.
Nah, bro. Nicki's unhinged. She's always been unhinged.
Whoa, I'm not talking about everything she's saying.
Get out of here. Stop it. Me and you talked about her unhinged behavior.
No. I'm not saying about...
No, you can't use Nicki as like the...
I'm not defending
rational thought.
Okay, I'm not defending everything Nicki's ever said about everyone. I'm saying when it comes to the conversation she's had where she's mentioning Desiree Perez, Jay-Z and Roc Nation, I don't believe those are all just, thoughts of a manic individual that have no either personal experiences with these people to support what she's saying. And here's the thing. The majority of what you've said, I could completely dispute, because even when you say, which obviously you're being facetious, you're saying, well, Roc Nation paid us $10,000 a month, right? Let me ask you a question. You're being facetious, clearly, but do you believe that there's no one in the media, I wouldn't say necessarily getting paid off by Roc Nation, but that has mutually monetary interest that would be in their benefit to defend Roc Nation or Jay-Z?
I think, as you know, not even I think, I know for a fact, and you can agree with me on this, is that once you get into a certain industry, particularly something like music and entertainment, you have relationships, and which often form into friendships with various people. Okay. So when you have relationships with people, then you're going to give them a pass. You're not going to talk bad about them, whatever else. You don't hear me ever talking bad about Boosie, right? Me and Boosie have a business relationship and a personal relationship. People have said certain things about Boosie, and I'm like, nah, I'm not co-signing that. Or I'm not even going to mention
It's a thin line, though, right? Because also, right, it's a very thin line. There's a thin line between friendship and just straight monetary incentive, right? And that's why I'm getting back to the payment, right? Because I think the old school way would be...
So hold on. Me and Boosie, we have a personal relationship, but there's also a monetary incentive for both of us.
Yeah.
To keep things moving, right? I pay him for interviews. I mean, everyone knows this. This is not a secret. I pay him to do interviews, and those interviews are profitable. So we both are mutually dependent on each other. Not dependent on each other, but we work with each other. We both make money with each other. So, yeah, there's a monetary incentive there, right?
Yes, there is.
I'm not being extorted by Boosie. The Boosie mafia is out there killing people and
with all due respect,
buying judges and whatever else.
With all due respect, Boosie's not that powerful. There's about 1,000 things Roc Nation has been either behind, whether directly or indirectly, that pattern becomes, I don't think it's a coincidence anymore. But when it comes to, like, say, payment, right? For example, there's a list of individuals that when Jay-Z was going up to get the casino deal, and he was the front celebrity, the face of the possible multi-billion-dollar deal, and they needed approval of the neighborhood council, he brought on a bunch of hip-hop folks to speak on his behalf. Those hip-hop folks, some of them are in media. None of them, has ever thought to, either take anything of him being in the media about whatever with any type of seriousness. I don't think that's friendship. I think that's a business opportunity, right? Like, I don't think some of these people, I don't think they're friends with Jay-Z that much. It's just hey, listen, this is a guy who I'm going to make money with. If y'all are trying to bring him down, you're bringing me down. Not going to let it happen. And so that's what I was trying to say. So when you send out that tweet,
I don't think that's much of a point. Of course, people want to work with someone that they have potential business future with. Like, this is just normal business. Like, and plus you're talking about something completely different. You're talking about someone stepping forward as a character witness or someone that's dealt with someone before, as opposed to saying that this guy paid a Mexican pedophile to stab Tory. Right? So you mean to tell me that Jay is going to put his whole future, his family, and his legacy on the line worse than Bill Cosby, right? Because if it was proven that Jay-Z paid to have a man stabbed up, that's worse than what Bill Cosby did, right? And every Jay-Z, everything will go down, the NFL deal gone, album pulled off the shelves, streaming services done, invited nowhere, NFL deal, forget about it. So you can stab a dude who's already in prison?
Okay, Vlad, I'm going to respond to you, and I'm going to say something that it's going to sound crazy, but I'm going to give an explanation. It'll completely make sense.
Here we go.
But this is why when you post what you posted, it's like the feds releasing the Epstein files. I know that sounds crazy.
No, remotely similar, but go ahead.
Here's the explanation. To drown out some of the actual, maybe really credible and things that we could actually be like, oh, that was really going on. Like, for example, in the Epstein files, there's an individual named Les Wexner, former CEO of Abercrombie & Fitch and also of Victoria's Secret. He was literally funding this guy, knowing all of this happened. Leon Black. There's real things in there, but with the release of it, they would put some crazy shit in there to say George Bush was eating the intestines of children after they sacrificed them and eating the fecal matter out of them. You know why? That people can say, this is all bullshit. That's what I'm saying. Sometimes the most, like, again, I agree with you on that point you made about, what was the point? The last point. I don't think everything is credible. But what I'm saying is that when you blanketly act like because some of the things aren't credible means that nobody should believe anything, that becomes a problem, right? Because
what in my tweet? What? Like, name something in my tweet that's credible. Like, any of it. Like, name one credible thing in terms of what I said.
Okay, perfect. All right. So this is what I would offer up. Okay, so you have a confession. Roc Nation been paying me to support Megan. I think when again, it's not credible as pertaining to you, but do I believe that Roc Nation, through his surrogates, has been, financially incentivizing people to either support Megan? Absolutely. Absolutely. Right? Now, again, it might not be credible to you, but when you say it as the person who, that's why I said it's the Epstein files, pause. Like, when you say, people think that, well, if this isn't true, it's not true for everybody else. Right? Because you're going to come out and say, of course they never paid me. Then people are thinking, well, they never paid anyone. Or they don't have any business incentives with people for them to support Meg on behalf of Roc Nation. Also, keep in mind, and this is why I said pattern recognition. If Roc Nation has zero, and this is why I said we could discuss all these at length. If Roc Nation has zero care about the media, right? The media supposedly, supporting Meg or painting her in a favorable light. Why did they essentially give their legal team to Meg Thee Stallion, fund millions of dollars to go after a blogger just to get $59,000, right? Why
did Roc Nation actually fund that, or did Megan just fund that herself to prove a point? And I think, and when you talk about these media connections and so forth,
Vlad,
like I've really been kind of fair on both times, because the girl that Megan sued, I had a conversation with her and I told her that it's just financial bullying, because at the end of the day, some random blogger that doesn't have a massive following like this girl putting out a couple things about Tory does not change anything.
Vlad.
Doesn't change anything.
And this is where
and funding someone like me doesn't change anything.
And
there's too many media outlets out there. It's not like it was in the 1980s, where if you got CNN to get behind you, suddenly you change the whole narrative. No. If they get you, me, everyone we know to say something on their behalf, there's still a much bigger media monster out there and so forth that's going to drown it all out.
Well, it's interesting you say that, because they claimed that Joe Budden, me, and Milagro was enough to sway people in Tory's favor. So why wouldn't you think?
Of course they're going to say that in court, because they're trying to win money in the case.
They spent millions of dollars. But hold on. Let me just
I don't agree with this. I totally don't agree.
Okay.
I think that this girl and Joe Budden saying something makes no difference in the grand scheme of things. Okay. That's not a shot to either of them.
And let me connect the dots real quick in terms of Roc Nation. And when we do have our in-person conversation, I want you to ask me for proof, because I'm not here to just say shit that is in belief, right? So when I spoke about, and I did a 7-hour deposition with the law, it's the same law firm that's representing her that is Alex Spiro, who's Jay-Z's personal attorney, his firm, okay? Quinn Emanuel. I sat through an 8-hour deposition. In hour 5, one of the 7 attorneys on the call, they actually slipped up, and while trying to show me an exhibit, they showed their chat. And their chat to each other was, hey, Akademiks just said this. Could you let Desiree Perez, not Meg Thee Stallion, Desiree Perez, the CEO of Roc Nation. So I know you're saying, oh, Roc Nation has nothing to do with it. Why would that be a thing? Why would, in a deposition with me for Meg versus this woman, they need to alert Roc Nation if they're not behind it? And I have proof of this. This is not something I made up. I have literal proof.
Okay. So you have an artist that's tied to Roc Nation that's suing somebody using the same law firm that Roc Nation uses. Whether Roc Nation is funding it or not funding it, I'm not quite sure.
And they're relaying information.
This is all regular legal shit. People sue all the time. I sue people. People sue me. People have sued you before. I'm not sure if you've sued people. Like, this is regular business shit. People
and they're relaying information to Roc Nation, but you think they're
okay.
They're
but isn't Megan signed to Roc Nation? So there is a business connection there. That's all fine. That's all plausible. Jay-Z buying off every juror and paying the doctor to lie about Megan getting shot.
No. Vlad, that's why I keep saying Epstein files. We're not saying the doctor was bought off. Like, again, I'm a skeptic. I'll definitely say I'm a skeptic. I'm one of the educated skeptics. So some of this like low-hanging fruit, I'm going to quickly dismiss it to get to the real actual points. You see the real actual point I just said? The real actual point is I sat through a 7-hour deposition and they're relaying information to Roc Nation when you initially thought Roc Nation had zero to do with this Meg Thee Stallion lawsuit. Clearly they do if they're sending the info to the CEO. Secondly, during the trial, it's well documented that on the days that even when Meg Thee Stallion was not there, they saw sitting in tandem with the DA was Desiree Perez, CEO of Roc Nation. Again, hey, those things probably should make you raise an antenna to say, hey, maybe Roc Nation, even if it's just for their artists, and obviously think about them as a company. Think about them as a company. They have maybe a financial incentive of trying to make her look like a victim or get Tory out the way. That their CEO, that could be on doing anything at the time, is sitting in court when even their client isn't there, Meg, to make sure and confirm with the DA, hoping to get a guilty outcome. That's a little bit odd, but okay. It might be coincidences.
Well, hold on. Their client is in court, not as someone being prosecuted, but as the victim. They're being supportive of their client, and
they're confirmed with the DA.
Personal, you know how it is in this business. Yeah, like you sign to people and you have personal relationships with people. I don't know what the personal relationship is between Megan and the people she signed to. Does she have a personal relationship with Jay? Does she have a personal relationship with Desiree? I mean, it's quite likely. And people showing up to support people, that's pretty normal. You see this all over the place. People are making a big deal because
you're missing the point.
Yo,
I'm trying to show you the proof of why regular people would think something seems odd. Have you ever heard of, in any regular cases, you're right, you've watched criminal cases, you've sued people civilly, and you've been sued, and so have I on a civil level. Have you ever seen where a CEO of a company that is signing a supposed victim, Meg Thee Stallion, is speaking to a DA in court while they are pursuing charges on someone else? Have you seen a manager talk to the DA as if they possibly could have some influence or could even ask questions when they're not the victim? That doesn't sound odd to you?
I don't see the huge problem with it. Like, you're representing the victim. At the end of the day, you're concerned about the victim. The victim is signed to you, and you may have an actual friendship with the victim.
So you're saying
you're on the side of the process, and you're on the side of the prosecution in this particular case, right? DA is representing.
They're not
Megan.
a victim. So if I go into court when they're prosecuting,
Megan's not the victim. What?
No, but
Megan's the victim.
Desiree Perez.
Hold on. She's basically sitting with the victim's lawyers, the DA, right? That's the victim's lawyers. The district attorney is legally representing Megan.
Yes.
You're sitting with the lawyers of the victim.
Desiree Perez is not a lawyer.
No, hold on.
She's not a lawyer.
Huh?
Desiree Perez is the CEO of Roc Nation. She's not a lawyer.
The DA is the lawyer.
Yes.
Right?
But why would they be sitting with a company CEO for a civil case between two individuals?
I'm sorry?
Why would the DA be sitting with a CEO of a company in a case between a aggravated assault case between two individuals? It's like imagine the CEO of Google comes to talk to the DA about you versus somebody getting a fist fight. You wouldn't say this is a little bit odd?
Listen. If I signed you, right? Me and you are friends, right? We talk off camera way more than on camera, right? Am I right?
Yes, absolutely.
Okay, me and you talk all the time. We run into each other. It's all whatever else, right?
Okay.
If you got attacked and the DA represented you, and you were signed to me, let's say, I signed you. I signed Akademiks, right? And then you got brutally attacked and someone shot you. Let's say Nicki shot you in the foot, right? Nicki Minaj shot Akademiks in the foot, and Akademiks went to the DA. The DA is, taking his case on. He's going to court, and I sat with you on the DA side, and I'm talking to the DA saying, how do you think this is going? Whatever else. Why would that be weird at all? I am with my friend / client as he's being represented legally in a very serious case. Like, it's not that weird. It's not that strange at all. I would probably do the same thing. I would sit there and talk to the DA, hoping that you would get justice in this case.
The picture that was painted is that they were conferring as if the CEO of Roc Nation has a particular stake. But okay, again, you see, I'm pointing out coincidences.
She has a client that's financially viable.
Okay, all right.
And they may even have a personal relationship on top of that.
Right. But Vlad, you can't have this both ways then, right? Because
but you don't know what they're saying.
Vlad.
Desiree Perez saying, I'll pay the DA.
I'm trying to stick to factual, but you're trying to have it both ways. I'm going to tell you why, right? So I'm talking about a factual thing that happened. I'm saying I think that seems out of the ordinary. You're saying no, it doesn't. Well, if you're admitting, right, you're saying it doesn't seem out of the ordinary because they have this financial stake in Meg. Why does it seem out of the ordinary that maybe if their financial stake in Meg is that people see her as this victim and that Tory doesn't get to tell his part, maybe why does it not seem kind of not out of the ordinary that maybe they paid somebody to go attack him? Why does one seem completely normal and then the other, like if they need to show up to court, they're right there in the DA's ear. Now Tory's convicted, but he's still he's still shouting on the highest mountains. By the way, Meg's career has not recovered since then. People still think of her like a liar. You don't think the one thing that could make this all go away is if Tory dies? Why don't you think that maybe I'm not taking that leap, but what I'm saying is that you're on one side of the fence, you're saying it's completely normal that they have a stake in their artist and their artist is going through a case. They have financial incentive there. That's why they're talking to the DA. Fine. I'm giving you that. That's normal. Well, why is it then not normal if you feel like this guy might be nearing an appeal decision or whatever? Hey, let's make sure this motherfucker don't get out. Is that such a wild thing? They have no stake there either? And I'm not only talking about the stabbing. I'm not only talking about the stabbing. I'll talk about other things.
Okay, I would completely address this.
Okay.
Showing up for physical and emotional support is totally legal. Hiring someone for murder and risking your entire future, ending up, listen, a murder for hire? You're talking about Desiree Perez be sitting there right next to Lil Durk in a murder for hire case. If this was actually true, that's a huge leap. Showing up to court and having some words with the DA, hiring someone for murder, paying off a judge, paying off jury tampering, judge tampering. These are all serious felonies. And you're not going to say it's the same thing because it's not. These are totally different accusations.
Okay.
If you were signed to me, I would show up to court, I'd talk to the DA.
Okay.
If you're like, yo, man, I need you to kill Nicki Minaj, I said, no, I'm good. You're on your own with this one, Act. I need you to pay off the jury. Pay off the jury? You crazy? Okay. No, I'm not paying off anybody.
Okay, so what you're trying to do right now, you're doing a little bit of straw man, but let me say this to you: if 7 years ago I told you that maybe there were these wealthy people who used another wealthy guy that we don't know how he got rich, and they used his connects to go fuck with little girls and go over to an island, would you say who the hell would be billionaires and risk their freedom too? Would you say that, or would you say no? Of course they would.
You're locked in with Waking Up TV.
Listen, obviously the Epstein files proved what they proved,
and
there's some
what
really,
did they prove? Wait, what did they? What they proved is that there are people who think they're so powerful they operate above the law and beyond the law, and you can't put out of their reach that they might do something like that. That's the proof. More than sticking to one particular thing. Okay, let's say the Mexican guy has nothing to do with whatever. You don't think that there's probably a little bit of influence politically? Like, clearly when Tory gets locked up, it's either pardon or he's going to get an appeal. You don't think maybe there's a little bit of throwing their weight around to maybe make sure that Gavin Newsom, knows, hey, listen, the powers that be would not like a pardon to even be discussed, right? And maybe we don't see that, but maybe later on we see Gavin Newsom kicking it with some of the same people, kind of accusing the same cabal. They're at the Fanatics Fest in 2026 at the Super Bowl week. I don't know. I'm just saying, at what point do we start looking at the Epstein files and say we ignored a lot of shit? And Vlad, in 2018, people would have called those people lunatics. In 2019, lunatics. 2020, lunatics. All the way up till half the files are released. They're like, fuck, these guys are really spitting.
Listen, I don't think that you need to pay off Gavin Newsom to...
It's not about paying off. It's influence is everything else.
Listen, at the end of the day, Tory is an immigrant. No, sorry, not even immigrant. He is a Canadian citizen that came over to this country and shot a U.S. citizen in the foot, and he was convicted of it. I don't think that Gavin Newsom is going to pardon him on any level. He doesn't need Jay-Z or Desiree Perez or even Epstein to try to get him to change his mind. Tory's not going to be pardoned by Gavin Newsom. I even threw in that tidbit at the end. I'm like, okay, well, this is going to make it totally obvious. And Jay-Z even paid off Donald Trump not to pardon Tory, even though he can't actually do it. But, Trump likes to bend the rules. Trump cannot pardon someone in the same case. We both know that. I'm literally just making shit up as I'm typing.
I'm not getting at your post. We acknowledge that you were being facetious. What I'm saying is that the overall, I know you're going to continue with saying, hey, listen, everything I said, these are complete just bullshit. And I'm not talking about everything specifically, but there are some overtones that we should possibly look at. For example, I do think there's a conversation to be had about even how that process, like if we're going to make it about Tory, which I think is bigger than that. The conversation of, all right, why and when was Tory charged, right? If you want to believe certain things in his appeal or other things that got reported, it was said that, okay, yes, Meg was a little bit non-cooperative, but they approached the DA. They approached the DA and said, hey, listen, we need this guy to be indicted. And the indictment came. And so what happened is everything that happened. Now, again, I'm not here trying to argue, law and order or should justice be given, but my thing is the invisible hand. There's always and this is what the Epstein files is about. These people that did shit behind the scenes that was really in plain sight, but it was always seen as coincidence. It was always seen as, okay, why are these two hanging out? It's not until you see them on an island in a picture with like a Power Ranger panties like in between them, you're like, oh, they're fucking kids. At some point, we have to figure what these associations are. Yes, Jay's named twice in the Epstein files, but he was kicking it with Harvey Weinstein. I just want the Steen files. That's it. Not just Epstein, the Weinstein files too. You don't think there should be something, maybe even asked about when it comes to, have you seen the videos of Jay and Weinstein solely cozying up? No?
I mean, they have, did they have some sort of relationship? Was Weinstein a major Hollywood player? And was Jay-Z also a major entertainment player? Yeah.
Was Weinstein a major creep and accused of being a major creep?
Well, he got convicted of it. So yes, he was. Was Jay part of any of these activities?
As Jay-Z has any accusations that could be similar to that, not saying he's convicted or even accused, but do you think there should be no conversation, or you think it's just so out the realm of possibility for even a discussion to be had?
Listen, we could always have discussions about everything, and that's cool. The whole purpose of these tweets is to show people how gullible they actually are. That's the joke. The joke wasn't my tweet. It was the reaction, and I was right. Like so many. This tweet is at over 10 million impressions right now.
I know.
And all over TikTok, all over Instagram, all over other social media platforms. It probably has 100 million impressions. Would you say that's right?
It does. But I do want to. So again, and I'm trying to focus the conversation here on really the biggest. Again, you're my man, so it's we'll never really have a real problem with each other when it comes to shit like this. But just on a debate level, but my problem with this is actually. Everybody at this point, and I did a lead up when I was introing this topic to explain your platform, what you've done, how you have, essentially at this point, you are one of the biggest hip hop platforms and one of the biggest independent media platforms that was once ostracized and people, tried to disrespect. At this point, I think you've taken your respect, and I love that. And you are putting out some of the greatest content. I love that too. But I do want to say when you put a tweet out like this, and you're right. I'm actually using your own words that you just said about a minute ago, where you said you wanted to show how some people are stupid or dumb for even believing this. Well, you do realize that a lot of your own viewers that watched you over the years when maybe you were ostracized for some of the hip hop interviews you now get, they watched you basically try to decode whether it was a Tupac's murder, whether it was Biggie's murder. And at that point, we've gotten official responses from all investigative bodies that sometimes went against what you later found, which later then came out, and we know that's the case with Tupac. So there's a time that we could have been watching your content and said, why does Vlad have this fucking lunatic on here talking all the shit? Years later, we see in Vegas, the guy got picked up for everything he said on your podcast. So what I'm saying is that how much are the people that are believing either any of this or some of it or even a piece of it stupid? Or maybe, there's some things to be discussed. Maybe even if you were being, I think you were being satirical.
Look, part of my job is to educate my viewers as well. I want the overall intelligence of my community to go up. And if that means I ostracize certain people who think that everything I said in that tweet is true, then I get it. Not every person is matched to a certain media personality, whatever. But at the end of the day, name me something in that tweet that has any level of truth, and I'll gladly discuss it. Now, if something comes forward, if it was proven that Jay paid off the doctor or had something to do with the judge or whatever else, and it goes to court and it gets proven in the same way that Epstein got proven, same way that what's his name? Harvey Weinstein got proven, then that's cool. We could discuss it. But these are all just weird allegations. These are all conspiracy theories. The same way that Tory's dad had that outburst at the end. It's all Roc Nation. Rah! That doesn't help anybody, man. That doesn't help anybody. It's not going to help like get Tory out. And at the end of the day, Tory has to work through the legal system. His appeal did not go through, which is, not a surprise because only 2% of appeals goes through. If he finds, now Tory wants to use his bodyguard, but his bodyguard has had a chance to actually testify during the trial. Tory had a chance to take the stand. Okay. And this is when I ran to his dad. The first thing I said was, listen, I said what I said about your son, but I still feel that if he didn't do it, he should have taken the stand. His dad's like, well, he couldn't have done that. And I'm like, no, he could have. He could have done that. Because I interview lots of people who take the stand in their own cases and end up winning.
Okay. So, and again, I'm only going off things that, I think people who are rational and reasonable could maybe say, well, that's interesting, and just have a question. And I'll mention one of those things as you just said. Well, in your tweet, it says they paid off the doctor to lie about bullet fragments. She was never shot.
Right.
Okay.
Yes.
Well, this is the actual story of how all of that came about, right? This is not just lunatics making that up. Some people might believe that the doctors may have gotten some type of outside interference. I'll tell you why. Because after Meg Thee Stallion had contact with the police and she said, I was not shot, I stepped on glass. She was transported to the Cedars-Sinai Hospital, and after they did an initial examination, there was an actual doctor, Dr. Lafredo, who said that the injury seems consistent with glass, not a bullet. So a doctor did say that. However, a further doctor, which I believe was an orthopedic doctor, then did a full scan of her foot, and then they actually said, yes, there are bullet fragments that we need to perform some minor surgery. So here's the thing. There's two different doctors that we're hearing with two different situations. And the medical report was actually, it was supplemented to an LAPD report. So it's not that someone just wrote it up. So do you at least understand that if people do think that, oh, wait, why is that switch up? It's like when the government tells us, hey, COVID wasn't created in the lab. Then later they're like, yeah, that shit was created in the lab. Which one are we supposed to believe? If you hear multiple reports, it's normal for the human mind. It's not because they're lunatics or stupid for them to say, well, why did the answer change? And that's where speculation comes in.
Yeah, and I get it. And look, in a court of law, the judge instructs the jury to say that if this particular witness or whatever person who takes a stand is lying and is caught lying, you could say that everything else they're saying is lying as well, right? And in the case of Megan, she was caught lying multiple times outside of the courtroom. She did say she stepped on glass first. Her explanation was, I didn't want the police to start arresting everybody and everything else like that, especially, in this environment. I think it was COVID and the police were, targeting black people and everything else like that. So, yeah, she was caught lying with that. And also when she did Gayle King, they asked if her and Tory had a sexual relationship. She said no. Yes, she was caught lying with that, too. And I think that's the problem, that Megan was lying a couple of times when she didn't have to. And that, in turn, made people think, well, she must be lying about every other single thing. But the thing is that she was not under oath with those other lies. When she takes the stand, she is under oath, and it's a whole different story. You know that. People say lots of shit in the media and in interviews. Once they take the stand, like we saw, like, for example, Cassie's story changed. The civil lawsuit said one thing, but once she took that stand and took that oath and was under threat of perjury, she started saying very different stories. Oh, yes. Yes, I guess he did. I did say that he raped me, but I guess he didn't really rape me, at the end, because I went and saw him again multiple times after that. So, yeah, I guess that part of the lawsuit is not exactly true. You see what I'm saying? It is very different. I think. And again, and I think that a lot of people are saying, well, Megan must be lying about everything because she lied about those couple things, right? And I get why people think that. I've never had a conversation with Megan, ever. Ever. I have no connection with her whatsoever. I don't know her manager. I don't know her. She's never reached out to thank me for being supportive of her during the whole time. I said, listen, Tori's going to go to jail over this. She's never thanked me for this. Like, I don't know her. I don't have a dog in this fight whatsoever. But at the end of the day, reality is reality. Tory got convicted. Tory's appeal didn't go through. He's going to have to, sit out the whole rest of the time. And I don't think Jay had anything to do with his situation. I think Tory being drunk, Tory having a little man complex. You've seen all types of other violent incidents that Tory has had, right? Mm-hmm. He's threatened people. He's wanting to take guns. He played with guns and so forth. He had substance problems. And ultimately, when someone is going through situations like that, things like this happen.
Okay.
And there's repercussions to that. And this is why he is where he is right now.
Hey, I'm not. Hey, listen. I think Tory made a couple of mistakes that night. I think he was chasing that punani. Yeah.
Right.
Just like many men, that insatiable thirst and appetite for, for beautiful women. That's pretty much kind of where everything kind of devolved and really, spiraled. So I agree with you. He made mistakes.
Hold on. I just want to say this. By the way, after I put this out, I had a message from one of the nurses that was there when Megan went to the hospital. And she said, I was a travel nurse in LA. Megan had bullet fragments removed from her heels. I seen this with my own eyes. I pulled out meds for the doctor for pain and to numb the area so she could tolerate the removal. Well, I think she had bullet fragments, man. I don't think Jay-Z bribed the doctor and threw some bullet fragments at him and said, hey, put these on the scene.
Well, tell that travel nurse congratulations on violating HIPAA laws. And, if they ever subpoena your DMs and they found out who that is, that person will be prosecuted.
Listen, you want to send messages out to the media outlets,
Hey, no, it's neither here nor there.
That is on you. I can't protect her at this point. I'm not saying her name at this point, but
it's neither here nor there. Vlad, I guess, I hear your Tory specific points, and, my thing is that, my overall thing is that I won't agree, even though I know you're being satirical, whatever, but I do want people to know there's an invisible hand in mostly everything in American society, whether it's politics, whether it's media, whether it's hip hop, whether it's with labels, whether it's this whole new infrastructure with AI. There's always going to be an invisible hand. And if you think that everything needs to be completely black and white without doubt for you to completely just believe it, no, doubt is what usually is the prerequisite for us to unearth some shit like the Epstein list, right? I'll give you this about the pardoning. Like, yes, I believe this is completely bullshit what you're saying when you say Jay-Z paid for Trump not to pardon Tory. Obviously, Trump can't pardon Tory. It's a state case. But what we should be very aware of is that, number one, there's influence everywhere. And I'm going to just use this quick analogy. If you think that this is like politicians don't get influence, maybe not paid, because, yes, you go to jail if that's found out. But if you think that there's not influence anywhere, think about this, okay? In 2025, Trump pardoned a host and list of people. If you really look at that list, you'll start to kind of realize how stuff goes. Number one, yes, Kentrell Gaulden was pardoned, which obviously we know is actually not pardoned. His sentence actually was pardoned. Yeah, he is pardoned for his sentence with the gun, and his thing was commutated, which is his jail sentence, or it was on house arrest at the time. But if you look at the other people on that list, right, one includes, and some of these names, at least for the public, they might not know who these people are, but Julie Chrisley and also, or Chrisley, I think I might be saying the name wrong, and Todd Chrisley. Both of them also got pardoned. Those are the ones that really, those are the bigger things and bigger fish to fry than Youngboy. Youngboy gets the conversation. But go look at what they did and look at how, if you think these things are random, the daughter of both of them spoke at the Republican National Committee, the RNC conference a year before. The same month, they did an interview on Fox with a Make America Great Again hat, really chanting, yo, we love Trump, we love Trump. If you think it's just random that her mom gets pardoned and her dad gets pardoned after that, there's no influence on whether it's Trump or even Gavin Newsom, okay, all right, the coincidences are just too crazy. But if you then say Gavin Newsom, who actually does have the power to pardon Tory, if you think there's been zero influence, while he, like, again, maybe he's not speaking about the case particularly, no one's asking about it, but he's putting up posts using Meg Thee Stallion songs, okay? Not once, not twice, multiple times at this point from what I've seen, unless maybe some of those are edits, but definitely at least once, because I saw it on his account. Then you see him basically, shoulder to shoulder at the, like, what I think has kind of replaced the Roc Nation brunch because it got too hot because of Diddy. is pretty much all this Fanatics Fest stuff. They now do the white parties and they do all the, hey, this is the industry, rigmarole, the shish kebab. This is the place where we all get it going. You see Gavin Newsom there. He's putting up a bunch of Meg Thee Stallion stuff. Maybe he's just a fan. Maybe he likes to twerk. I hear he's into trans stuff, but whatever. Either that's the case, or maybe the people who he's rubbing shoulders with, they might say, hey, listen, just if this ever comes on your desk, we can't pay you. That's clearly fraud, and that's a jailable offense. But we don't fuck with that guy, Tory. I don't know, and I wouldn't have proof of it, because if I did, it would be a bigger story. But it is a interesting coincidence that the governor is hanging with the niggas that basically wouldn't want to see Tory out. And essentially, when he's posting, trying to make political ads, he's using Meg Thee Stallion songs. I don't know. Coincidence again, I guess.
Yeah, I mean, listen, at the end of the day, it's not like Tory was on the verge of getting pardoned. Even the Menendez brothers didn't get pardoned. And they did like 30 years. At the end of the day, you can't go to any country, right? Let an American go to any country in the world and shoot one of their citizens and think that they're going to get pardoned by the governor or president of that country. Seriously. Just take a step back. Tory is not an American citizen. He may sound American when he raps and talks, but he's a Canadian citizen. He's going to get deported the day he gets out.
Well, here's the thing. Well, here's the thing.
No. That's a big deal.
No, I hear what you're saying, but Gavin Newsom.
There's already a huge incentive for Gavin Newsom not to pardon this guy. This guy's never been on the verge of getting pardoned. He went to the Supreme Court of California and they struck it down.
Hold on. Here's the thing, though. Gavin Newsom, though, he's been preventing ICE from coming into his state because he's not into deportation. So what you're saying about Tory, he technically wouldn't be with. So it's
no. You can't compare an old man that's been living in this country for 30 years, getting roughed up and thrown into a van and sent back to Mexico, and someone who comes over to shoot somebody. I don't think that Gavin Newsom has a problem with illegal aliens who shoot people in California getting deported. I think he's totally fine with those people getting deported.
Vlad, he is.
Okay, it's not the same. No, you can't connect those two dots.
Vlad, LA itself is a sanctuary city. Like they literally are saying when they release their inmates, even if there's a federal hold detainer that should instantly transfer them to ICE, they're actually going against federal orders. When ICE asked if they could round up people in LA County, they said, no, you out there, you know what's up. So don't act like this guy. Again, I'm not, obviously we're getting into weeds here, but the idea that you're trying to say, this was completely off the table because this guy is going to be deported. Well, the guy that would be considering it don't even believe in deportations, technically, if we're talking about what he outwardly supports.
We're not even talking about deportation. We're talking about a foreigner coming into this country and shooting one of the U.S. citizens. No one's for this. Nobody's cool with this. Nobody.
Not explicitly, but if you're not down to stand against them getting deported, it seems like you're looking at it not like that.
Governors before. I have connections with governors, right? I have certain governors on text that answer back right away, right? But at the end of the day, I'm not going to tell them to go against, to go and pardon somebody who went into their state and shot somebody from a different country. Like, it's a whole different situation. Being an ICE sanctuary city and actually, freeing someone who shot a woman who's an American citizen, who came from another country to do it, no one is cool with this. Nobody's going to co-sign this. I don't think Trump would have pardoned Tory if it was a federal case. Trump could probably and Trump has been paid off with people, right? Trump you could probably buy, right? Which is why I put in that whole ridiculous thing. Oh, he even paid off Trump because Trump likes to bend the rules. Trump is dealing with a governor that hates him. Trump cannot call Gavin Newsom and say, hey, listen, make an exception and free Tory because they just paid me $10 million.
Hey, I'm not putting anything against
Gavin Newsom tell kick rocks. They hate each other.
I'm not putting anything above any of these politicians. Again, Trump himself has pardoned.
You're right. At the end of the day, politics, everything can be worked out.
Trump has pardoned people. Some of the January 6ers who got pardons. It's not just a pardon for that one particular thing. It was blanket pardons, which a lot of them had domestic violence and other things that was violence against women on their docket, and it's not been wiped clean. So this idea that a governor is above, and here's the thing, it's not something where everyone is in cahoots that, we believe he did it. It's a little bit, I'm looking at it from the hip hop perspective. I don't know what the mainstream perspective. It feels still split, maybe 40-60, 60-40, whatever way you want to go with it. This is something that some people, it's kind of going down how some people viewed eventually the Central Park 5. And again, not to kind of completely bring it there, but some people felt like that happened and some people felt like it didn't. And then later on, those people were eventually, free. So
exonerated. Yeah, I mean, listen, I did the first like hip hop Central Park 5 interview.
Okay. See?
Which, with I think two of the guys, and eventually led to the documentary, and then they're exonerated and whatever else. Like, I get it. I get it. But
has Roc Nation reached out?
What's that?
Has Roc? I'm gonna be honest with you.
No, Roc Nation has not reached out.
I think that's the story in itself.
Gmail account. I remember like my assistant got some weird email saying, "I'm representing Roc Nation. You need to remove that tweet immediately." Someone with a Gmail account I've never heard of. I'm like, yeah, okay.
Vlad, I think,
and if Roc Nation, let's just say, because remember I was on Piers Morgan with the whole Jaguar rights situation, which he spewed all that nonsense, and Roc Nation did reach out to Piers, and Piers did publicly apologize and take that clip down and so forth. If Roc Nation were to reach out, I will gladly say it was all sarcasm, it was comedy, it was designed to make people look silly, which it did. In fact, I think it helped you guys more than anything else.
I think that's why they haven't reached out.
Yeah, exactly. I think it actually helps them way more than it hurts them on any level. Because conspiracy theorists are always going to think that, regardless of what they put out. I think they're totally fine with it. In the same way, listen, Sneeko called me the same night and asked me about it. I've never doubled down on this. I've said, yeah, like at the point that I got on Twitter, I've been admitting that this is all, this is all silly.
All right. So the follow-up question to that would be, because I believe you, right?
Yeah.
Knowing how Roc Nation operates, they've, there's a video that was discovery material from Desiree Perez, CEO of Roc Nation, and her daughter ongoing case, which was a home recording that made its way online. And Roc Nation quickly reached out to any outlets that even used it and said, hey, listen, we will pursue legal action. They've also reached out when people even, made any more than a light insinuation when he had civil accusations. They are really lawyer ready. So the fact that they haven't done that with you, they probably think you're help doing their bidding. Do you feel like at this point that your post and demeanor to say this is to make y'all look foolish actually helps Roc Nation because they really want to, it's like the real creeps in the Epstein files are saying, yeah, look at all this other stuff. Did you really believe George Bush was eating the intestines of little children? Again, do you think that maybe your post still being up is actually, indirectly working for them, or, it seems to be helping them?
I don't have a dog in the fight with either person. I don't have a relationship with Jay. I don't have a relationship with Megan. I don't have a relationship with Roc Nation or anyone really that has to do with Megan or so forth. Nor do I have a relationship with Tory. I am really totally neutral in this case. I am a complete outsider, which isn't always the case in my line of work because I have relationships with a lot of people. I've interviewed a lot of people. But in this particular case, I've never sat down with Jay. I've never sat down with Megan. I've never sat down with Tory.
Interesting.
All three of those, I don't have any level of connection with. Like I said, me and Tory, we exchanged one set of DMs a long time ago during this trial where I made a comment about him and he DM'd me and called me a cop or whatever else. He tried to see what I actually knew, and I told him, like, what I know is what's obvious out there. And that's that. He's like, well, you a cop. And I'm like, okay, cool, whatever. Like, I've always said, if Tory wants to come do an interview, in fact, there was a conversation about him doing an interview on Vlad TV, while locked up. The other day, I have nothing against Tory. When I met his dad, I was super respectful. And me and his dad have each other's phone numbers. His dad could call me and address all this.
Hey, so, and I know you put that offer out there. I'm wondering if, and you say you have no dog in a race or horse in a race, whatever.
Yeah.
Would you do an interview with Nessa? And I know you've had Van before, if you would do it with either. So let me give you the story behind them and their connection with the Roc Nation and Jay-Z. So Nessa is the girlfriend, I believe girlfriend or maybe wife, of Colin Kaepernick. She came out, and I know you have said Nicki is just a whack job, but she came out and she supported Nicki. And she said, well, some of the things that she's saying actually goes right in line with my experience. Jay-Z came in and co-opted this entire movement that my husband or my guy started by kneeling, and he basically communicated with us that he was on our side. He got us out the paint. He basically did the bidding off the NFL, and it was, again, I'm still going to say the byproduct of the invisible hand moving those out that is problematic and getting what they want, whether it's a conviction, whether it's, get this motherfucker to stop kneeling. We trying to get some ads. She has a story to tell. I think she's still on Hot 97. I don't think she's cool. Van Lathan, who used to work for TMZ, came out and said, "Hey, when the stories broke of I think it was Colin, either when he was trying to get back in the NFL or something adjacent to Colin Kaepernick in the NFL, there was conversation. I think he said this publicly too. There was conversation that came to the office via Roc Nation that was preventing basically Colin Kaepernick from looking a certain way, or they were trying to plant a story. I can't remember the real thing. He could speak about it because I've talked about this with him in length. And he started to say, I'm not going to lie, there's something about this Roc Nation shit. It's kind of spooky. That's what we would love for you to investigate, though, Vlad, because you're really good at this. But I'm telling you that there's some non-kooky stuff that we should really talk about that, again, yes, your tweet you just made up on the fly, but some of these people you're talking about, they're not just like randomly named. It's a reason why people would believe it. And
yeah, I mean, look, Jay has a major role in the NFL right now. The fact that he gets to pick the halftime performer really makes him a kingmaker. Think about the favors that he could cash in years to come in exchange for putting certain people. Like, for example, do you think Bad Bunny will tell him no for anything he asks in the future?
Hey,
Jay really went against the grain and put a guy in the Super Bowl who doesn't speak any English and pissed off everyone. And the president, there was a whole competing halftime show, whatever else. Jay did this dude a solid, and Bad Bunny owes it. So obviously it's a major position, and in the position, part of the dialogue between the NFL and Jay was like, listen, we kind of want this Kaepernick thing to kind of go away and kind of downplay it. Yeah, okay, I get it. He has a financial incentive to make it go away and so forth. Nessa has a baby with Kaepernick, so obviously she's going to play things a certain type of way. Now, when I look at that case, just to be honest, though, you had a mediocre quarterback at that point. And you could look at my interview with Warren Sapp, right, who is a major NFL Hall of Famer, who is tied to the Raiders.
You're trying to change the point, though. Like,
no, hold on.
I've never defended this guy as a good quarterback.
It was one of the worst tryouts ever.
Okay.
You go and sue a corporation and then want a job afterwards? Good luck with that. It wasn't going to happen anyways. But did Jay have some sort of he kind of moved things around to make sure that the job he got was secured? Yeah, maybe. But that's a lot different than sending someone to go kill a guy in prison and hiring a pedophile to do it, which is what happened, right? It's different than paying off a judge, having some words with someone or whatever else, and using your star power. Listen, man, you and I use our star power to get shit. Have you ever been to a restaurant and there's no reservation? Oh, Akademiks, come on in. Oh, I got a table for you. Oh, no, it's on the house. Here's some free food. Oh, here's a discount on this. Here's that.
Vlad, I hear what you're saying. What I'm saying is that there's only one entity that's hip-hop adjacent or hip-hop related that have 5,000 accusations of underhanded tactics, going all the way from framing people for convictions to influencing powerful people to keep other people's out the spot, that we could tangibly see every day that are actually making decisions, right? It's not like we're like, no, like
did he hasn't been doing this his whole career? The Shine case, the whole case with the celebrity basketball game where people died,
and the whole dialogue about Diddy is that once the power and influence went away, he got exposed, and even the things that we learned. How was he able to cover up this for 20 years or 30 years? How? If they told you he blew up Kid Cudi's car back in 2010, you would have said, that's ridiculous. This guy's a billionaire. Who would actually threaten their livelihood as a billionaire to break in someone's house with a gun and then blow up his house with some type of firebomb? Wouldn't you say that, Vlad? Be honest.
Hey, yo, you're locked in with Waking Up TV.